Hey everyone, thanks for joining in on today's AMA. It's going to be a deep dive into bitBOMB and what the launch is going to look like, and what to expect, just how things are going to happen for the launch. So let's maybe wait for a few more people to join before I really get into it. So let's get any questions about bitBOMB or anything in the protocol. Feel free to ask anytime during the AMA. I'm doing this one on my own, so I'll try and keep up with the questions. Hey, what's going on, Gumby? So for those that are unaware, I guess I'll just go over some of the basics of bitBOMB, what bitBOMB is, and what it's going to look like, and definitely the transition from OG bomb to bitBOMB. So bitBOMB is going to be a multi-peg protocol, very similar to CZ. CZ, we saw a lot of success. It's the taxes are working great. We're going to actually make a couple adjustments to the site. Actually, overall, just so you guys know what we're planning to do. Hey guys, what's up, man? I'm doing great. Got a good sleep last night, so I'm all nice and refreshed. So what we're going to actually do, since we're going to launch not only bitBOMB, we're going to launch numerous other protocols in the coming weeks on other chains. So what we're doing from a development side is we're going to be basically templating this site so that we have one unified code base, and then we just kind of indicate, depending on which site people are visiting, whether it's bitBOMB, CZ pegs, or one of our future multi-peg protocols, it's all going to come from the same core code base. So when we make an improvement to one, it's going to propagate out to all of the different sites. So that's going to be really beneficial. Like one thing that was discussed yesterday in our team meeting is the way that the taxes are shown here, it's really not good, because this makes it seem like the taxes apply to everything and they apply all the time, but in reality, it's only for cells and it's only under peg. So this needs to be reworked. And that's just like a small example of, when we make an improvement to one, it's going to just propagate out to all of them. So that's going to make it really easy for us to deliver improvements to every protocol very quickly in the future. Let me just grab some questions here before I go on. What's the bonus percentage if we're going to swap BOMB to other peg tokens? So that's something I'm going to get into a bit later on. Hey, what's up, man? What will the tax and burn start at bitBOMB? Another great question. That is something that I'm going to speak with the marketing team. We're debating maybe starting off with higher taxes just to kind of prevent sales under peg early on. And then, I think that the 25% tax on CZ right now might be a little bit high for something that's, ongoing once the protocol is fully launched. I think we had a bit of a bank run early on in CZ for various reasons. And we maybe thought that 15% tax wasn't enough to deter sellers, but maybe because of that specific situation, we didn't have really the right situation or scenario to gauge what tax rate is the right tax rate. So, I think maybe this 25% is too high, and I think, we'll likely do something less than 25 on bitBOMB. However, it may start higher. Not 100% sure about that yet. Don't know why the YouTube quality. Should be able to switch it up. Zapping will be available from the start. Should be. Yeah, I don't see why not. And as well, we're going to have the auto vaults really early on in the launch. So maybe day one or maybe day 2, 3. It's not going to be a wait like it was with CZ. Very welcome. So yeah, so in terms of the code base and, things improving for the sites, it's, we'll see rapid improvements that'll propagate out to all sites. So I'm pretty excited about that. If any of our, multi-peg protocols have any unique aspects to them, then we'll still have the ability to implement that. But in general, improvements we'd like to push out to all the different sites. So so bitBOMB is going to be a multi-peg protocol, just like CZ. Primary one is going to be bitBTC, which is basically going to be BOMB v2. Then the second one is going to be bitDOT, which is going to be our polka dot peg. There's been a lot of discussion about the other two peg choices, and I'm starting to think that we should do a peg hub community vote or governance vote on what the third and fourth peg choices should be before we start deploying contracts, and when it becomes very difficult or impossible to change. So some of the options, Beefy, I really like the exposure to Beefy personally, but I see challenges in that for, we have a 2-year runway on our share tokens on bitBOMB, just like CZ. I see us growing to, a substantial size in the future. And we really don't want to be the ones that are impacting the price of Beefy because of demand to farm on our site. And, with a limited supply token, it's something that could potentially happen down the line. As well as Beefy's token, it likely is going to go back to its all-time highs, which would, be 5 times what it's at right now. And, when you're looking at a $2,500 token or whatever it might be, we don't want, people to exit farming because, it's a volatile token and it's peaking. So people want to now take their profit and sell, and now we're under peg. We want something that's maybe a little bit more stable and, that's not unlimited supply, so that we can keep building those farms up without impacting the price of those other assets. Is the swap into bitBOMB manual, or we don't have to? Yes, I mean, you'll have to do it yourself. That's what we're going to be. Basically, the first stage of bitBOMB launch is going to be the swap from BOMB assets to bitBOMB assets. That'll be available within 5 days from when the vote passed, which was yesterday. So, yes, I mean, so you're going to have the choice to swap into numerous assets. You don't necessarily have to take BOMB and swap to bitBTC. You're going to be able to swap to the other assets. There's going to be a little bit of an incentive to swap to the other assets, just so that we can better spread out the BOMB between the 4 different pegs. So I'm still debating exactly how that's going to work. Whether it's going to take like the live rate between, because we're going to give BOMB credit for being at 1.0 peg, regardless what the peg's at. So I was thinking probably the best way to do that would be to, have our smart contract take the live rate of, what is, if I took 1/10,000th of a BTC, which is BOMB at peg, how much DOT do I get with that? And then using that exact rate to figure out, what the swap, what the user would get when they're swapping BOMB over to any of these other peg tokens. What is your transaction fees? I mean, we're on BSC, so transaction fees are very minimal, $1 or $2 maybe at max. Let's go bitBOMB. Yeah, DOT is, I really love DOT, so that's definitely for sure. Once swaps are open, can we see how much BOMB is swapped? Yep, we'll have stats on everything. Oops. Yeah, well, so we will have stats on everything. You'll be able to see how much BOMB has been swapped for each of the 4 peg tokens. You'll be able to see, how many are available, how many have already been swapped, how many are remaining, very similar to, the peg hub pre-sale with BOMB, where it showed 6,000 tokens available. And then it, started showing, how many were swapped, how many are remaining, and, all that. It'll be very similar to that. What will happen to nodes? So we're not turning anything off of OG BOMB, right? So it's nodes. We will likely launch nodes on bitBOMB, nodes on OG BOMB. People can continue to participate in any way that they like. I'd probably suggest starting to claim out, and as opposed to compounding. And then, what we're going to do after the initial swap phase, we are going to have, swaps allowed in the future. Those are going to be fueled from Treasury bitBTC and Treasury bitDOT, and all the other peg tokens that the Treasury receives from printing. So once that starts to accumulate, likely, a couple days after the full launch is when we'll enable, further swaps from BOMB to some of the peg assets. Just the treasury has to build up some from the prints. And what I'm thinking is we'll have a 1 week bootstrap phase. So like CZ had a 3 week bootstrap phase, I think it was, or no, it was 1 week on CZ. It was 21 epochs. That's right. We'll do something similar on bitBOMB. I'm not sure we'll do it at 3.5%. Maybe it'll be more like 2.5 or 3%, but more details on that will be come out closer to release. The date of the launch. So this somewhat depends on the initial swap. So if, as I mentioned in somewhere around here, I think I talked about this. Anyways, I'll just explain it. Too much text here. So we're going to do the initial swap, which is going to have, actually I'm at the right spot here, 500,000 BTC tokens. And then the other 3 peg tokens are all going to basically have a market cap of $300,000 at 1.0 peg. So, for a $10 token, that'd be 30,000 tokens, for example. So that's what's going to be available in the initial swap period. And if that does not all get taken up, if that's not all consumed, then we'll have a genesis phase if there's enough tokens left to justify having a genesis stage for farming. If we don't go through the genesis, then everything gets sped up by about a day. So the launch would likely be it'd be right after the swap phase. So, and the swap phase is going to start in about 5 days. Will you be checking Discord AMA question channel, or should I paste here? I mean, I can check that. That's fine. The AMA questions, I assume, channel. I mean, it's probably easier if you just post here, just because I'm doing this one myself. So it's not easy for me to be checking a bunch of different channels while I'm doing it. So if you want to just, because this way I can show the question on the screen as well. Cool. So, although I should probably hold questions till the end because I kind of forgot where I was at. But yeah, so we're going to do the swap. That's that's going to be the very first stage of the transition. And as I said, OG BOMB, it's going to continue. We're going to let the B share emissions run until they run out in the end of November. So, I mean, anyone that wants to stay in that farm, they're free to. I mean, all of our attention and focus is going to be on the new bitBOMB, and let's look at it like the bitBOMB launch, the evolution of BOMB. I mean, not necessarily a relaunch. Relaunch is kind of looked at negatively by some people. So this is going to be the future of BOMB, and this is our launch of our our main BTC peg protocol. What about Tezos or XRP? So the ones that I was thinking of, so what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to have a peg hub proposal. And the ones that I'm thinking of are, I mean, because we've already mentioned Beefy in the governance vote that passed, I feel like we have to include Beefy in the options for the governance vote. But I'm thinking that probably the 2 strongest choices, if I were to redo the vote right now, would probably be Cardano and Solana to go along with Polkadot and Bitcoin, just because they're level 1 networks. It's the native token on those networks that lines up very well with Bitcoin, which is obviously native on its chain, and Dot being Polkadot's coin, native on Polkadot. It's pretty neat to have all native tokens on their own chain, and those are all chains that we either can't launch on or won't launch on. So let's get to some of these questions. What happens in the event that some people aren't able to convert due to the 500,000 limit? Yeah, so because of the limit, yeah, some people might not be able to swap over everything that they want to. So there's a couple different things that I've planned and suggested. One is, I'm thinking maybe for the first hour, maybe there'll be a cap of doing 1,000 at a time or something like that, just so that somebody can't come in and just grab all of them right away. And then, you know, after that first hour period opens up, maybe the limit per transaction is increased to something higher. I don't know. I'm going to look at a couple different ways to make sure that it's fair, so that, you know, not one person doesn't come in and take, you know, the vast majority of what's available. Although I'm not sure that many people are holding enough BOMB to do that at this point, but still, we need to make sure that those situations don't happen. But yeah, I mean, if the BTC is all, you know, been accounted for in the swap, definitely the other peg tokens, you could go for those, or you could wait. There's, you know, everything that's going on with BOMB already, and has been going on with BOMB, is going to continue. So, I mean, you could always be farming with those until, you know, it's not going to take long for the treasury to have enough to swap. You know, as soon as that boardroom starts, it's going to be printing regardless of what peg is at. Although I feel like we'll probably have a good strong start to pegs. So yeah. So once the treasury has those BTCs and the other peg tokens, we'll allow further swaps. So we want to make sure that nobody is, you know, feels left out if they really want BTC and maybe they're sleeping when it happens, or maybe, you know, for whatever reason, or maybe get sold out fairly quick. You know, make sure that everybody can get the tokens that they want. Any ideas on tokens used in the various Genesis pools? I haven't put that much thought into it yet, but we'll choose something that's advantageous for both the user base and the protocol. I mean, I think, you know, generally in the past, you want to get new investors that aren't already familiar with the protocol. So, you know, that's why you go with generic assets and things of that nature, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean, Solana and Cardano, they're both, you know, they're huge market caps, non-EVM level ones. I think they make a lot of sense. I mean, it really comes down to like users on BSC. What do they want exposure to? What will they be happy to, you know, jump into, start farming? That's really the biggest thing that we need to focus on in terms of the peg choices, which is generally going to come down to which assets are people holding and what do they want exposure to, and, you know, what do they want to grow their bags with, you know, which assets. So yeah, I think those are probably two strong ones, but we'll do a governance vote and see what happens with that. But just because I do need to start deploying code soon, we'll probably have that be a shorter vote, like maybe only a 6-hour discussion period, and, you know, maybe a 18-hour vote or 12 to 24-hour vote. We'll see, something along those lines. Thanks for the thorough explanation. Very welcome, my friend. BUSM is still going to be used within the protocol. It is here to stay. Yep, 100%. So can talk about that now. So BUSM can have numerous, you know, vaults associated with it where you can borrow BUSM. So, I mean, let's go over to Abracadabra real quick and just take a look at some of the options that they have. They've recently switched up their sites. That's pretty cool. So BSC is not the best example because they only have a couple choices there. But I mean, so actually, this is a good thing to show you guys though. So I mean, these are not even yield bearing tokens, right? Just wrap BNB and cake, and they're letting you borrow MIM just by depositing these tokens. So I mean, collateral can be anything as simple as just a token, as you can see here. But if we go over to some of their other chains, you'll see some more advanced options. Okay, so this wasn't the best choice of network. I thought they had a whole bunch more here, but so they have a liquidity pair, right? So we can put LPs as collateral. I mean, ideally we want something that's yield bearing a little more than that, but let's see what they have here. Which one did I just pick? Okay, so they got a ton here. So I mean, they have their spell token, they have the staked spell. So I mean, that'd be the equivalent of like having BOMB and XBOMB. Yeah, they got a ton of choices here. Yeah, so I mean, we can really use whatever we want as collateral based on the new protocol. So we'll maybe see what the community wants to use for that, and we'll definitely have BUSM pumping as well. Like I know BUSM's been, you know, maybe slightly neglected in terms of everything else that we're doing, but because we're having new project leads for every aspect of the ecosystem, you know, every project within the ecosystem is going to get the attention that it needs to be successful. So I have high expectations for BUSM in the future. All right, let's get to some questions here. What do you think is about pegging S&P 500, gold, and one alt instead of 4 alts. If you think Bitcoin will go lower, having hedges is probably better. Peg token struggle in down markets. I mean, I'd hope that we're near the bottom. This has been a pretty brutal crypto winter, but yeah, I mean, it definitely has the potential to go lower. I mean, I think this is a long-term project. Our whole ecosystem, there's no end in sight. We're going to keep building. We're going to keep building value for the P-Hub holders and the holders of the individual protocols. So, as much as I do think some of those options are pretty interesting, keep in mind we are going to launch more forks in the future. So, one that's been brought up recently actually is like, having a meme coin fork. And that's probably one that could also be on BSC potentially, where it's, we have pegged to like Doge and SHIB and, I don't really follow meme coins, so I'm not too familiar with them, but a lot of people are really into those tokens. So that could be a nice targeted fork. And we could have other targeted forks as well that do, various different pegs. But, I think having, Bitcoin with 4 other big, they're alts, but they're big, huge alts that aren't going anywhere. I think, it can give our users a lot of exposure to other strong crypto assets and, really build bags huge for when the market rebounds. And probably, any of these level 1 networks using their native as pegs. I mean, these are all going to pump when the network or when the market turns around. So here's some more questions. What will the spacing look like between the launch of bitBOMB, CZ-FTM, CZ-AVAX, and other future protocols time-wise? Good question. I did say that, with the bitBOMB launch, I didn't want to delay any of the other protocol launches. It's more about building the team and, the project lead and everybody that's going to work with them to ensure a protocol is a success. In terms of me creating the code and launching, it really doesn't take very long. So it's more going to just be about strategic with marketing when they think is ideal to launch. So we're not launching too much all at the same time. And so that they have adequate time to build up hype and set up AMAs and, do all the other great things that they do. So, we're really building out the team really heavily right now. So a lot of things are going to start happening a lot quicker and being done to a higher degree, higher quality. Already it's happening, but it'll happen more and more as the new hires come on board and they're more comfortable with, everything that they're doing. But I guess to directly answer that question, actually, let me quickly take a look at the white paper that was created and see what did I say in terms of the launch, because I do want to stick with what was mentioned here in the roadmap. Okay, so I said here, late June and July, launch our next 1 or 2 additional multi-peg protocols. Okay, yeah, so I mean, definitely during the month of July, we will launch at least 1, if not 2, of the other protocols on probably Phantom and AVAX will likely be the next 2, or maybe Polygon. I think those are the 3 that are going to be launched next, and then probably ETH shortly after. But I'd say, yeah, we'll do Peg Hub governance votes in terms of which chain should be first and then which chain should be second. And I'd see the launch of that happening within a week to 2 weeks after bitBOMB. And then probably the one after that being another, 1 to 2 weeks after that. We'll likely have the sites up in advance just so that we can, start raising awareness and things of that nature. But we want to have the launch just strategically staggered so that, we can focus our attention in the right places. So I'm just going to keep doing questions now for a bit. Given the market conditions, is it best to launch the perfect protocol once the market begins to pick up with more users and optimism for crypto? Awesome stuff. Can't wait for BOMB money. Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult one, right? I mean, we don't want to just leave everybody out to dry and, have their investments all, go to zero, right? So I feel in DeFi, you can build value regardless of what the market's doing, right? And as long as we can build value and we can generate interest in what we're doing, then, people will be able to grow their bags for when the market turns around. So I think now is, it's probably as good of a time now to build your bags as ever, because you really want to have that big bag when the market turns around. So I don't think, while we might be off to a stronger start if we were to launch in a bull market, we got to work with what we got, right? And right now the market's looking, fairly dismal, but we all have faith it's going to turn around, and I know it's going to turn around. Just we don't know what the timeline looks like on that. So we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, keep building, and keep building as much hype around what we're doing, and like I keep saying, allowing our users to build up their bags for when the market turns around. How will there be zap functions for the likes of Sol and ADA if there's going to be farmers for their LP rather than us having to bridge them in? So the reason, just to go over, the reason why those are very likely potential choices for the third and fourth peg, and same with Polkadot, is because they, for one, they are native to their own chains, and they aren't EVM compatible chains, so we can't really launch a fork on those chains. So if we look at BSC scan and we look at the top tokens by market cap, so these are tokens that are going to have big liquidity and a big presence on BSC, right? Let's scroll down a bit. So we got XRP here at number 6. We got Cardano at number 7 with $672 million that's volume, $15 billion market cap on BSC. Wow. Or no, that's the circulated market cap. The on-chain market cap is 128 million. Sorry, guys, I don't look at this every day, as you can probably tell. But yeah, $128 million market cap on BSC is very nice. Polkadot, 110 million market cap on BSC. Let's keep going until we see some more. Atom, that's one that I like this one a lot. I'd like to get exposure to Atom personally. Cosmos, huge protocol. They've got 16 million on BSC. Let's see where some of the other ones are that we're looking at. Well, there's Tezos that somebody had mentioned. Where is Solana? Did I miss it? It's not in the top 50. That's kind of surprising. How is Solana not in the top 100? Maybe Solana is not the greatest choice for. Not seem like the legit wrapped Solana. Anyways, I'll check that out later. So maybe Solana is not the best choice for BSC. I thought that they would have definitely had a huge presence in wrap form here. Probably should have checked that out before I mentioned it. But that is really surprising, though. So you mentioned zap functionality. So when we talk about zaps, we're talking about assets that are already on BSC, right? So these are all in wrapped forms. So, I mean, for example, so Cardano, right? So this is the token here. This specific wrapped version of Cardano is what we would peg to. And this follows the price very closely of the, it's wrap form. It's basically the same as having the native. You can always, switch that out to the native when you need to. So what are the 4 alts in addition to BSC? What do you mean? If you want to clarify that question a bit, I'd be happy to answer. FTM and AVEX, please. Yep, that's likely going to be our next 2. But hope you have some P-Hub. You can vote on what we're launching on next. You like Atom a lot too? Yep, perfect. Atom pumping. Yeah, I mean, I really like Atom too. I guess actually the only reason that I was really debating maybe having a vote for the 3rd and 4th and not just replacing Beefy is because Solana actually seemed like a really good choice potentially with Cardano. But now that I see that Solana has like next to no presence on BSC, apparently, unless I'm missing something, yeah, maybe we should stick with Dodd and Atom and then just have a vote on, should the fourth one be Beefy? Should it be, Cardano? Should it be one of the other ones that's been mentioned? Saw someone suggest ETH as another blue chip, even though we have EMP and CZ pegs, and we'll probably launch a CZ fork on ETH. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I really like ETH and I like exposure to ETH, but I mean, we will 100% launch on ETH mainnet. So that's definitely where it makes sense to peg the ETH, in my opinion. So I guess that's the answer to that. Talk about first mover advantage. If you brought Solana to BSC, I'm sure wrapped ERC compatible sol exists. Yeah, I mean, it's probably got a huge presence on Ethereum, I would guess. Am I spelling it wrong? Like, how can I not find this? It's crazy. I mean, it's kind of weird that I'm not able to find wrap versions of Solana in any kind of large market cap form on Ethereum or BSC. That's really surprising. If anybody knows why that is, or if maybe I have to look it up with something else, let me know. I meant what was decided for bitBOMB. What are the alts in addition to BTC? Okay, so yeah. So the governance vote basically made it out like it was already predetermined. BTC, Polkadot, Cosmos, which is Atom, and Polkadot's Dot, and then Beefy. Beefy, I have some issues with Beefy. I got beef with Beefy. No, honestly, I love exposure to the token, but because of it being a limited supply token, it could cause issues for us once we, have liquidity pools that are, getting into the, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. There might not be enough Beefy. We might start really impacting the price of Beefy. And because Beefy is like it works a lot like P-Hub, it's a limited supply token. They do buybacks. The price of this token generally is going to trend upwards, which is a good thing to get exposure to. But, if all of a sudden one day it jumps from 1,500 to 2,500, which is not that unlikely with a token that has a small market cap like Beefy, we might see a lot of people that just want to profit take, which I mean is perfectly fine, but that's going to negatively impact our peg, right? So that's something we have to take into consideration for the long-term health of all of the pegs, really. So I think Beefy is not making as much sense now that I put more thought into it. So maybe we'll just have a vote to to switch out Beefy for something else. When bomb chain, we're gonna do it. I just can't give a date at the moment. We need to figure out the right the right twist that we can put on it to make it so that it's has its own unique competitive advantages, and there's a lot to figure out prior to launching bomb chain. That's the contract for wrap. So I'll let you find on which network. How do I can't copy and paste out of this. So I got a 25 mil market cap on BSC. Really? So why couldn't I find it? And that's not the one that was just linked. I mean, is their token not verified on BSC scan? I mean, I guess that's possible. I've had a couple people say the video quality is low. Is it bad? Let me take a look from my phone. You might have to just scale it up yourself. A couple people say the video quality is low. Oh. Yeah, like so on my phone, it auto went to 480p. It still looked quite good, but you can push it up to 720p. All right, well, we'll look into Solana. I think, although if we're sticking with Atom, I think Cardano, as much as like I've never really looked much into Cardano or got involved in it myself, it has a huge presence on BSC, 128 mil on BSC. Oh, the browser, yeah. Here, I'll zoom in. Well, I don't know. Why don't you guys let me know in chat like what you'd like to see on the vote? I mean, it doesn't hurt to have more options on the vote. Yeah, I think Atom, it might make sense to stick with Atom. All right, so we're good with questions. So just, I guess, more general stuff about bitBOMB. Yeah, so I mean, it's gonna be very similar to CZ pegs. We really like a lot of the mechanics of CZ pegs and how things have transpired over there. So, but we'll be improving things as we build it out. And like I said, it's going to be a templated site. So, okay. Yeah, Solana is not showing as verified. Yeah, so I mean, even like Magic Internet Money wasn't verified for a while. I don't know if it is now, but that would definitely stop it from being on any of these lists. Yeah, I can't copy and paste out of that screen. Actually, let me just go to my own. Okay. Oh, that's Etherscan. Oops. Okay, it's called Wormhole. I was just looking for the wrong thing. Okay. I'd consider one hedge for the protocol at least. I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, we have to also look at the technology of like how we peg to a token, and how we have to create the liquidity pool, and how we our smart contracts can gauge if we're at peg, and the oracle with the time weighted average price and everything. So basically, in order to peg to a gold, a silver, and S&P 500, we would need a large market cap token on BSC that represents those assets, or one of those assets or asset classes, right? If we don't have that, then we can't peg to it, right? Yeah, I mean, definitely, I'd love to have a peg to some of those things. I think on ETH we'll be able to do that. They have what's it called, PAX or something like that. There's a token on ETH that is quite large that's pegged to gold, the price of gold. So we could peg to them, and then that would be our gold peg. Oh, I answered the next question without even knowing it. So yeah, so I mean, for either of those, you just need to have a token that its dedicated purpose is to track those assets, right? So it's one that's pegged to gold itself. Yeah, PaxG, that's the one. So PAX G on Ethereum is pegged. Now I'm hearing that PAX is on BSC as well. $300 supply, 2 addresses hold it with 4 total transfers. No action in 400 days. Not sure that's a good choice. Unless I got the wrong one. All right. So, I mean, I'm not sure what else I can really say about bitBOMB, above and beyond what I've already said and what's already been mentioned in the articles. So maybe we can use the rest of the AMA just, for questions and suggestions and feedback, and then we'll call it after that. P-Hub makes sense. It'd be like a PEG ETF. Oh, you mean like pegging to P-Hub? Wouldn't mind ETH itself as a peg token, even with EMP on CZ pegs and possible CZ fork on ETH chain. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind an ETH peg either, but we don't want to have too much overlap. Yeah, a couple of people have brought that up, peg into PegHub. I mean, I think PegHub is going to do amazing on. Well, I know PegHub is going to do amazing on its own. It doesn't need any additional buy pressure, and it's. I think we should leave that one out. I think it would also have the same problem as Beefy, but even to a further extent that it has less liquidity on it. PegHub itself. It's even further limited supply than Beefy. I think Beefy has 80,000. We have 10,000, and a bunch of our 10,000 are locked up investing that aren't even circulating yet. So that's something that would hit a point where people just can't buy anymore, or just people trying to, people that get their pegged PegHub from the boardroom, they can't even buy PegHub to pair up with it because, buying it's going to make the price change too much just because there's none of it available to be bought, right? So I think that doesn't work for that reason. So I've given approximate swap date. It'll be 5 days. When we have an exact date, we will make sure that everybody's well aware of it in advance, at least 2-3 days ahead of time. So, we could probably release the exact time of the swap at the very latest tomorrow, but maybe today. All right, guys. Well, if you got any questions or feedback or suggestions, now is the time. When will we get to meet the new BOMB hires? Will they be on future AMAs? Definitely. I could definitely bring the new hires on to future AMAs and, introduce to the community. It's honestly, it's really exciting times because, I know that I'm going to have more time to focus on where my real strengths are, which is, being the visionary and, managing devs, doing dev work myself, engaging with the community, coming up with great ideas where things that aren't really as much my strength, I now have people that are experts, in those areas that are going to do a much better job than I could have ever done at it. So very exciting times. What about the Tarot fork? Is there a timeline on that? So, yeah, I mean, it's bombmax.fi. It doesn't need too much more work in order to be operational. It's not the highest priority right now, but again, that's something that we'll have a project manager lead, and this in itself can be a beast for us, right? As a revenue generator for P-Hub, and just great for the whole ecosystem. This front end already has, multi-chain built in for all of our future forks and other chains. And, we can have, all the protocols on the entire network that want to participate in this, they can. I mean, we don't even need their permission. We can just add their pair here, and people would be able to single asset supply and leverage and do all that cool stuff. So I'd say the timeline on this is dependent on when we get how fast we can get somebody to manage it and to, you know, to set it up for success. So these tokens will come out in the next weeks is the question. So it's going to be sooner than that. We're going to have the swap available within, you know, 5 days, and the launch is going to be, you know, very shortly after the swap. So it will be very soon. Yep, it's almost for sure going to be bitbomb.app. I bought a bunch of bitBOMB domains, but I think this one makes the most sense. There's nothing here right now, but that's probably the best bitBOMB domain I bought. I think I paid extra for it too. So we're going to have like, so what we'll have is we'll have like a big message on BOMB money. Actually, I had a great suggested text to use, something like, where is it? Yeah, so like we'll have some kind of messaging like on the BOMB site, like you know, BitBTC evolution. Or wait, no, I'm reading the wrong thing. BOMB has evolved to bitBOMB v2. Click here to enter bitBOMB. BOMB will remain forever, but all new features will follow bitBOMB development. And then read more with a link to the Medium or something like that. So, you know, we'll have some nice text that makes it very obvious on the BOMB money website that, you know, bitBOMB is the evolution of BOMB, and that's what we're putting all of our focus and intention into. So let's get some exposure to FTM as a peg. Need to get away from Tomb. I hear you, buddy. We're going to launch on Phantom, right? So we'll peg to Phantom when we launch on Phantom, as well as, you know, hopefully get some good partnerships there, like maybe one of the dexes, like, you know, Spooky or Spirit. If we can get a nice partnership with one of them and peg to their native token, or well, their protocol token. Yeah, we'll get that going ASAP. But just because we're going to launch on Phantom, I don't want to peg to FTM on BSC where it's not as common. How the governance will work with the new additions. Yeah, so I think, you know, moving forward, what we're going to do is all ecosystem decisions are going to be made by peg hub holders. With regards to decisions that are very specific to a particular protocol, we're going to be using the share token, and it's going to only be staked share tokens that are going to count. So whoever's in the boardroom and has their share token staked there, they're the ones that are going to be able to decide on, you know, protocol decisions that are strictly for that protocol. Yep, that's the answer. The new share token will be the governance token. You meant the redesigned UI, not the new domain. Well, yeah, I mean, like it has to be, right? Like if we can't launch a multi-peg protocol on our current BOMB site, so it's going to be based on the CZ site with some improvements, and those improvements will trickle back to CZ as well automatically. But yeah, I mean, the bitBOMB site will likely look fairly similar to this with different colors and different, you know, we're going to, you know, anything that we feel like needs to be adjusted, we'll adjust, such as the tax. I don't like how this looks because it makes it seem a lot worse than it is, which is the wrong way to present ourselves. So how long will the B share exchange be available? I think we can keep that open until they're exhausted, right? So we're going to pre-mint 400 of the new shares, which is going to equate to 40,000 B shares. So there's just slightly over 40,000 circulating supply right now. But I can tell you right now, like a lot of those are in the liquidity pool. A lot of them are, you know, they're not all going to get swapped right away. It'd be impossible. Plus, I mean, because we're not stopping anything in BOMB from operating, I mean, there is a decent chance that with the swaps that we're doing from BOMB to the peg tokens, you know, and with the new share token being as lucrative as it's going to be to, you know, either be one of the first ones in the boardrooms or to farm the share farm, it's going to be really desirable to get a hold of that, that new share token. So, the cheapest way to do that at first likely will be to buy 100 B shares and to swap. I mean, you don't have to do it in full units. You could buy 10 B shares and swap it. But so I think what we'll do is we'll have 400 available for swap, and it'll keep running until those 400 are gone, which I think will probably be quite a while until that happens. I'm leading the bitBOMB, sir. Got this under control. Are you at all worried about CZ pegs being forked and launched on other chains before you can? We're going to move quick. We're not going to move too fast to the point where we're rushing things, but no, to be honest, it's something that's, it's been considered, and that's why we're not taking our time with things. But we also need to make sure that we set each of the forks up for success, and they have, a full team responsible for the success of each of the forks. So as fast as we can build up the right team to manage it and to, to lead it and to, ensure its success, that's as fast as we'll launch them. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that, but it is a thought that's always, being considered. All right, let me see if any other questions came up outside of the live stream that I can address. Thanks, Bone. Appreciate it. Actually, we're coming up to about an hour now. Happy to answer more questions if anybody has any, or if you guys feel like I didn't cover anything that I probably should have, probably just because I forgot. So, if there's anything else you guys want to hear me talk about? Actually, I guess one thing we can talk about is PegHub. 438, 65.51 bought back. So the automation for this is fully running. All right, man. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so the automation for the buybacks is 100% operational. So right now what's happening is every 18 hours, we're claiming share tokens automatically. And that's currently from BOMB and from CZ. That's going towards our share token swapper, basically. And that's running every 20 minutes. Although because, in order to prevent people from gaming the system, what happens is it's not exactly every 20 minutes, and I'm not going to tell you exactly how often it is, but it's around 20 minutes. So basically we're generating like a random number off chain. And I think right now it's about 2/3 of the time it's going to do nothing. So if that number is over a certain amount, it just says, okay, skip it till next run, just so that we're not doing buybacks every 20 minutes or approximately 20 minutes. And then when that number is in the right range to do a share swap, what it's doing is it's then using that number and feeding that to the smart contract. And the size of the swap is based on that random number. So basically no one will ever know when swaps are going to happen or how big those swaps are going to be. And then also we can set, parameters on the share token. So for example, when bitBOMB launches and the shares are, going to be quite valuable, we don't want to be swapping the same number of shares as we're swapping on other protocols where the shares are, a lower value share, especially at launch when there's not many shares, out there. We got to be very careful about those swaps. So when that share token is added to the share swapper contract, I'll set the max swap size to be something quite a bit smaller. So that way, when it gets that random number to figure out how many to swap, that's based off the max that it's able to swap. So it'll swap, a lot smaller amounts at a time, but that's going to feed really heavily into PegHub because the share token, even swapping smaller amounts at a time, the share token is going to be much more valuable. So those buybacks it's going to shoot up like crazy. In addition to that, the smart contract's done that can safely sell PEG tokens. That one was a little bit more complicated to build because it has to take into consideration, is the token at PEG? How much over PEG is it? All these different things it has to take into consideration. And, there's a lot more variables I had to feed into, but yeah, that's all taken care of. So When bitBOMB launches, so already all of CZ pegs tokens are set up there. When bitBOMB launches, we'll set up all 4 of those peg tokens in the peg token swapper. And yeah, the automation will run on that in a similar way to how it works with the share token. So whenever these peg tokens are in a state that they can be sold in small quantities without hurting the price, they'll be sold. They'll be sold to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is sent to the PHub revenue distribution contract, or I forget what I called it. But what that contract does is whenever it receives BTCB, it automatically buys PHub and sends it for staking rewards. So PegHub is going to absolutely explode with the bitBOMB launch. Not financial advice, but that's going to happen. Will we be able to exchange our BBOMB before Genesis pools go live? Okay, so I think you mean bonds. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think you mean the B bonds. So we're going to treat B bonds the exact same as BOMB for the swap. So anyone that, had faith in BOMB and got those B bonds, you're going to be able to use those just the exact same as BOMB, because, we definitely don't want to leave behind our B bond holders, because, you guys had faith in us and the protocol. So we want to make sure that you're whole. So automation is probably my favorite part of technology. Almost love automating everything that I possibly can. Yep. PHub is a true gem, a real gem. Probably one of my best ideas I've ever had in my life. Benova asked him if he has a large Twitter following, could help with marketing. Okay. When will B bonds be freed up to swap? I mean, when the swap opens, you'll be able to use bonds or BOMB the same way, right? They'll be looked at the exact same. Got another question. CZ share price fell much faster than B share. What will support the share token if we remain below peg? We are so close to peg, but remain below on every peg token, depressing that price. Any catalysts? I mean, that's not really the topic of today's discussion, but I'll address it still. So, I mean, I got to really just speak with the team. There's a lot of things changing right now. Like, we're getting the project lead on CZ set up and, getting his team all coordinated. And, with all the hires that we're doing, there's, the attention that each project is going to be receiving soon isn't in place quite yet. So, all of the projects will have access to all of our marketing resources. We've got some great guys in marketing, and they're going to be able to help all of the different projects out. So we're just kind of in a bit of a transition phase right now. So, clearly all that has to happen is with CZ is, I think the biggest thing is, probably just this website needs to be changed so the taxes don't look they look way worse than what they actually are, because it's only on cells. So I think we just need to make a couple adjustments to the site, and we just need to, promote it a little bit. I mean, there's hardly any selling happening, but there's just not many new investors coming in right now, partly because of the markets, and, partly because I guess, I don't know, there's just not enough effort being put into, raising awareness on it. Will Midas still be on the Twitter space this Friday? Yep, we have a big Twitter space with Midas this Friday. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, no problem, man. No problem at all. This is probably one that you might want to watch the recording of. Pretty informative about the whole bitBOMB relaunch. So anyways, PegHub, yeah. So yeah, this is going to be quite amazing. We have big plans for the PegHub website as well. We're going to have a blog here, where you're going to be able to get insights from myself and some of the other team members, or maybe even guest writers that are going to, share their insights on the whole crypto market, DeFi, and, just stuff that's maybe not particular to a protocol, but just good, general information, which is going to help raise awareness of our whole ecosystem. And, PegHub is going to be the gateway to all of our protocols. Obviously, it needs a website update for that to happen. which will be coming soon. But like we've been thinking of doing something not exactly like beefy finance, but something similar. So the way that they like not similar to the look of it, but more similar to the functionality, how you can basically compare things across any chain. Because I think it's probably the direction that almost every multi-chain protocol is going to go in the future. Because bridging is so easy nowadays that when you're comparing where you want to farm, it makes sense to not look at one specific chain. You may as well just look at all the chains, right? And figure out where the best opportunity is. Well, same with once we have numerous forks launched across numerous chains, it'd be great on PegHub to be able to see everything, regardless which chain you're connected to, or if you're even connected at all, to see all the different options of our pairs, what they're paying, the boardrooms, to be able to see all the stats in a summary, even to be able to interact with it from PegHub would be incredible. That's something that, we can definitely do. But at first it'll probably just be like more like stats where like it'll direct you to the actual protocol to interact with it. What do you think are the reasons for the recent PHub pump? I mean, PHub's going to $10,000 to $100,000 in the future. I mean, if you have any faith in anything that we're doing, like that's going to happen. I mean, why it's not over 1,000 right now is the better question, to be honest. I guess probably just because I've been talking. Well, I automated the buybacks of PHub, so probably just the fact that that's in place now probably got people excited. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I see people, that are selling off one or two PHubs here and there, and it's just kind of funny because it's just such low levels for what this token is going to get to. But I mean, if anybody's going to sell any token, this is the safest one to sell because it'll just buy it right back automatically anyway. So yeah, I mean, like it's pretty crazy that we just started the automation and we've already bought back over 1% of the circulating supply. Because keep in mind, there's quite a few tokens, like almost 4,000 tokens that are locked up investing that are getting released slowly over 12 months. So this is approximately 1% of the circulating supply that's been bought back. And right now, the only thing feeding into this is 2 share tokens with fairly depressed prices. So, once bitBOMB launches, if this price isn't already, a couple $1,000, this number is going to shoot up like crazy. Because obviously the higher the price, the less actual tokens it can buy back with each buyback. So yeah, I mean, selling PHub right now is probably one of the worst things that you could possibly do. Like PHub is just incredible. There's the downside doesn't really exist because as long as any of our protocols are generating any revenue, we're getting buybacks, right? There's nothing that can really happen that makes PegHub less valuable, right? It's a limited supply token. I'm holding on to mine. I have a huge, portion of them, and it's something that there's not enough of them out there for the people that are going to want them in the future. So, 10,000 is capped. There's no mint function on the token. There can never be more than 10,000. So if this doesn't go to 10,000 plus at some point, I will be extremely shocked. I mean, it'll happen with buybacks by itself. Will there be lowered rewards for the vault on the bit tokens? I don't know how the APY are calculated, or I feel like there's some kind of other aspect of this question that you left out. Like, do you feel like vaults have lower rewards or something? Or, I mean, the APY, so basically, like, I mean, I'll go over that real quick. Look here, let's look at this one. So 141% APR on the CZBNB BNB. So now let's pop over to the vaults. I got a few PegHubs, guys. I don't know what you mean by will there be lower rewards for the vaults? Like lower than what? So I'm telling you how the APY is calculated. So you can see the APR on the vault. So this is lower because, for one, I think maybe CZ shares might have just pumped, so maybe this just hasn't updated quite yet. But plus, there is a small performance fee involved with the vaults. So, but yeah, I mean, this is just showing you what you'll earn in a year because of the compounds, right? So that's how the APY is calculated. It takes into consideration if you compound, every 2 hours like we do, or some of them are a little bit more often, what your returns would look like in a year. But if you want to let me know what you mean, will there be lower rewards, lower compared to what? If you want to let me know that, I'll answer the question. So the formula for APR will always be the same. I mean, this is not something that we like. It's standard across pretty much every farm in all of crypto, right? It's based on how many rewards feed into this farm, how much money is in the farm, and it does some math, right? If $100,000 of rewards are coming in, and there's $100,000 staked in the farm, then it's 100% return over the course of a year, right? It's a math question, not really a protocol question. It's just based on how many rewards are coming in and what's the value to get involved, or how much money is in there, right? All right. Well, unless there's any other questions, we should probably conclude. Give it a minute, see if anybody else has anything they want to ask. Oh, someone sold on the bullish news. Probably a bot. All right, guys. Well, thanks everyone for stopping by and joining me on the bitBOMB deep dive. I'll be around in the communities, and I'll be around all day, really. So if you guys have any questions that you didn't get to ask, then feel free to ask me on Discord, Twitter, Telegram, whatever is your social platform of choice. Thanks, man. Very welcome. I like doing these. They're fun. Although I do like having some company on them, but I don't mind doing them alone either. Thanks, David. Thanks very much, guys. All right. Well, I'll see everybody around in the communities, and hope everyone has a great day. Take care, guys.